Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am super excited to see some names I know, but probably even more excited to see names that I don't know, which means that for whatever reason, the letter I put out into the world was effective. And I thank you all so much for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jorge Vidal. I'm the proud CEO of Florida CraftArt. I'm just delighted that this many people are joining in today to our first ever statewide Zoom craft conversation. I am not stuck on that name, and I am on a Zoom call with a whole bunch of very creative people. So if anyone comes up with a better name, I'm not only open to hearing it, but put it in the chat. We might change the name and there might be a prize in it for you. My hope with this little test run of this initiative is that we can start connecting artists, art organizations, educators, guilds around the state. Since I took on this job, I've been doing a little bit of traveling around the state of Florida, and I've also been doing a lot of Zoom calls like this one. And I've met fascinating people, fascinating makers, fascinating art leaders. The ones that I have met, I wanted to share with the rest of the community, but I'm also hoping to meet some new ones via this Zoom call. So that is an invitation out to all of you to please take part in this conversation, which is one of the reasons why I do like the name. I do want this to be interactive and there being some back and forth. And I am hoping to learn from this as much as anybody else. So let's keep our fingers crossed and then that can actually happen. I guess at this point, I'll just tell you a little bit about Florida Craft Art. There's a bunch of you who know about us because God knows my jaw has been wagging for quite a while. Um, I am I think this is the one no, I think it's actually this one. Or is it this one? Let's see. I'm sharing my screen with you all. Just to give you guys a little bit of idea of what we are. Are you guys seeing this
Yep,
where my
you,
cursor is?
you look good.
Oh, I look good. Great. Thank you, Dan. Let me begin by thanking Dan Katz, our building and business manager, who is also serving as technical director today. And I want to thank all the staff here at Florida Craft Art because everybody really pulled together in making this call happen. So everyone, that's Dan Katz, and applause for him. So let's see if my PowerPoint's actually going to work. Yes, look at that. Florida Craft Art started in 1951 by two professors who had moved here from Arkansas, Lewis and Elsa Frond. They had started a summer school in Arkansas, but then found themselves as professors at Stetson University in DeLand. Lewis was a WPA artist who was a painter and a printmaker and did some mural work. Elsa what wasn't Elsa Frond? She was a weaver, a ceramicist, a painter, but she is mostly known for her jewelry. Um, and I started with this picture because I think they just look very, very glamorous in it. And for those of you who don't know me or never heard me speak, I'm one of those people who fall in love with organizations, but I also fall in love with the founders of organizations. So I have a little CEO crush on these two. If this picture shows their glamorous side, oops, this picture shows their fun side. Um, and I just wanted to share that because I never got the opportunity to meet either one of them. We lost Elsa in the 80s, but I sure wish that I had. They seem like a fun couple of folk. Elsa she was a jeweler, and here's one of my favorite pieces by her. She was well known for creating her own stones. She either used fused glass or ceramics, and Lewis suggested she call her jewelry Elceramics, but that name didn't stick. So she eventually started just signing her pieces Elsa. But she is quite well known. She is among other very famous museums. I will share with you that she is part of the collection of the Met, the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, and the Victoria and Albert Museum. So she was known worldwide and collected to this day worldwide by some pretty phenomenal institutions. What they were hoping to do was take craft that was being created in Florida at that time and elevate it. We still sort of I'm very surprised still that we have conversations about the difference between craft and art. And of course, to some extent, there is a difference. But when you see a piece like this and the work that I'm seeing by artists across the state, I don't really see such a strong delineation. This piece, for instance, really shows the creativity that you would expect around art, but definitely the vision, especially at the time when she was creating these pieces. So they formed Florida Craftsmen, or the Florida Craftsman Guild, in 1951, and it started around a university exhibition at Florida State University. And after that, they started having annual statewide exhibitions, mostly in university galleries. It did that for quite a while, but in in the 1980s, and I have to say from personal experience, I was in college when I first started going to the then Florida Craftsman Gallery, which was a much smaller space than what we have now. And it was the place to be in St. Petersburg. And from that point on, I felt not only comfortable with crafts, but I just realized the richness in the community here in St. Petersburg of people who were working with their hands to create these beautiful things. Let's see, in 1995, we moved into this building. It was the former Rutland's department store. Previous to that, it was the Golden Dragon Dance Hall on the upstairs. We have pictures of flappers dancing on the roof. The building was built in 1916. So we are the proud keepers of a historic building in a pretty historic downtown, but still we're seeing development in the area. And so we're very proud to be the stewards of this building. In 2002, we took the leap. Our first executive director, without much consent, I have to say. I think this is a pretty heroic thing she did, and I hope that she's among you today. But she put a deposit down on the building and then informed the board that we had to come up with some money to buy it. And so we did. So it became our forever home in downtown St. Petersburg. Today, we are a member-supported nonprofit organization committed to advancing fine crafts and the artists that make it. We have a few different elements of our organization. This is a view of the Florida Artist Gallery. So this is the area that is really focused on makers from Florida. One of our main missions is supporting them through sales. and also guiding them through the experience of sales. A lot of people come to us without a lot of experience selling their own handmade goods, and we're always there to give them advice on pricing or directions they might want to take. And that's something that the gallery staff takes very seriously in curating the space, but also helping the artists that we do accept sort of understand the marketplace. So we have more than 200 artists represented in this space, and that keeps us very, very busy, but we're proud of that piece. We also have an exhibition space. This, very selfishly, is an exhibition that I curated here a few years back. And one of the reasons why I'm sharing that particular one was to not to give away the surprise that you will see in our next sort of exhibition spotlight. Whoops, I did something wrong there. But I did want to share with you that one of the first ways that I became involved with Florida CraftArt many years ago, I think starting in 2006, I curated shows for them. They were very open to my ideas, supportive of what I wanted to do. And I invite any and all of you that are in this group that if you have ideas that you want to share, please share them. We're excited to see what's happening around the state and beyond. In this particular space, in the exhibition space, we do not limit our work, the work in the gallery to Florida. In fact, the exhibition we had previous to the one we have currently, we had artists from New Zealand and Australia and France. We see that as part of our mission because we really do want to expand the view that people have of craft. And I think sharing that not only with the general public, but with the artists in the area, that really goes a long way in just having a sort of broader worldview of what craft can actually be. Upstairs in our former music hall, we have, and this is a very, very old picture. You'll see in the background, it says Art Space. It's currently called Art Loft. But this is a picture from 30 years ago. These are 22 studios that we have in our upstairs space. And I'm very proud to say that even though this picture was taken 30 years ago, there are several artists in this picture that are still upstairs working away in their studios. So I think it says something about our community that we can keep people engaged for that long. We don't have all of them though, so we're always bringing in new artists. I think in this last year, we had about 3 new artists that took up space in the studios upstairs, and we welcome them as just another fresh perspective to the community. Besides art lofts, we also have mural tours. If you're not from St. Petersburg, you might not know this, but we have a rather large collection of wonderful murals by international artists in St. Petersburg, due to first an original kind of groundswell of interest in murals from the artists in the area. And that developed into the Shine Festival, which invited artists from literally all over the world to create these wonderful, large paintings all around our city. We have mural guides that are mural painters themselves. So they show a unique perspective on what it takes to create a mural, the process, and are able to pretty much answer any question that visitors have around the murals when people participate in that. We also have a youth arts program where we partner with several entities. We have this is the picture you're seeing right now is a picture from Academy Prep. That the artist teacher is Genevieve Hill Thomas. She has a PhD with a focus on African textiles, travels to Africa every summer to work with artists there, but was more than willing to share her skills works with fiber with the students of Academy of Prep, and we've had really amazing experiences with that. We sent our brand new youth program coordinator to Academy Prep today so that she could help out. And she came back with a huge smile on her face. I could tell that she had a really wonderful experience today. Last night, we had kids from the Heart Gallery, which is another program that we partner with, which brings awareness to the need for children who um, uh, are at the risk of aging out of the foster care system, but also sometimes actually make connections between kids that are in the foster care system with actual parents. So we've had a couple of situations like that. We had a program like this just last night. And out of total coincidence, there were siblings, a brother and a sister, who had not seen each other for a few months, and they showed up at our program as a surprise to them as much as it was to us. And they spent the evening making art together. So those are the kinds of things that happen here that make my heart swell a little bit anyway. And lastly, I just want to share with you about our emerging artist program. We have a cohort of 8 emerging artists this year. We've expanded the program to be an 8-month-long program. We bring artists that are ready to take the next step in their careers. So they're of all ages, all very talented individuals. And we set them up with professional marketing materials, mentoring opportunities, mini workshops. Jessica, who you're going to meet later, taught a workshop on how to write a great artist statement, which I think we all need help with. So all those little pieces come together and culminate with an exhibition that we will be having in the gallery just after the holidays. So with that, I feel like, I hope I haven't taken up too much of anybody else's time, but I'll flip through quickly just a few of the emerging artists that we have. You'll notice that each one of the emerging artists have a different sponsor, and we really see this. And many times the sponsors are professional galleries. We see this as yet another way that we can connect these artists with galleries, with other kinds of mentors, with collectors. So there's just so many great things that come out of that program. I'm really very much proud of it. And last but not least, one of our emerging artists, you'll see her work in the background here, Nanika Jones. We're very, very proud of her. She ended up on the cover, her artwork ended up, rather, I should say, on the cover of Time magazine. So a lot of the people that go through the programs I won't take credit for their talent, but we're very happy that they're associated with us. And please, if you're an educator or know a young artist, please share that information with us, and you can learn more about it on our website. I think that's the end of my presentation, and I will stop my share so you can see me again. I'm going to move on to the next piece where Jessica Todd, our gallery manager, is going to spotlight the exhibition that we have here in the galleries currently. Jessica earned her MFA in jewelry, metals, and enameling at Kent State. She has a BA in metal art and technology from Penn State, and also a diploma in Hispanic studies from the University of Barcelona, which I guess I would have known from her resume back when I hired her, but was impressed with it all over again when I read it last night. She also serves as a committee member of the Gobiath Foundation, the Society of North American Goldsmiths, and Artist Community Alliance. Welcome, Jessica, and enjoy her sort of look at Duck to Water.
Hi, everyone. Let me get my screen share up for you. Shout if you can't hear me right now. All right. So, all right. So, hi, my name is Jessica Todd. I'm the gallery manager here at Florida CraftArt, and I curated the exhibition Duck to Water. First, big thank you to Janine Haskell for sponsoring the exhibition, to my colleagues in the gallery team for helping bring it to life, and to the artists for trusting me with their work. I'm going to talk over this video, which will show you the installation in the Florida CraftArt exhibition space. Then I'll open up questions and comments afterward. So a common goal I have for curating and writing is to expose an audience to new work, whether that's by out-of-state artists or a local artist who's kind of under the radar or hasn't shown in a particular gallery. I also want to elevate contemporary crafts media to be considered in the way we consider painting and other quote-unquote fine arts media. The impetus for this particular show was the fiber artist Heidi Parks. Heidi is an incredible artist from Milwaukee whose work I've wanted to share for some time. She has this really intuitive and improvisational aesthetic and process that is so distinct from our traditional idea of quilts, which are often very planned, strict, and toiled over. So that was the start of this really fun, colorful show. From there, I thought about work that would represent a range of media and contemporary crafts with the same tactility and playful spirit. The title Duck to Water is a reference to how naturally each artist takes to their respective media, achieving a feeling of effortlessness that can only be achieved through mastery of technique. I wanted to include a few more national artists to introduce to the local arts community. One is Douglas Molinos Lawrence from Knoxville, Tennessee, who creates these elegant yet playful hardwood vases. He restricts himself to just a 6 by 6 by 2 inch block of wood and creates an incredible range of variations within those limitations. Next, I brought in Kat Cole from Columbus, Georgia, who combined children's toys with her signature collaged enameled steel to create this series of emotive necklaces and brooches. I actually have an MFA in contemporary jewelry, which is not a common field, and it was important to me to include because there's not a lot of representation in contemporary or conceptual jewelry in exhibitions in Tampa. I intentionally displayed the jewelry on the wall rather than in a case or on a mannequin to emphasize that it should be considered with the same seriousness as the other work. And here we have Nikki Coupe from Oakland, California, who makes these blown up versions of royal jewelry from non-precious synthetic materials. I'm going to pause real quick. Meticulously set in brass to poke fun at the status symbol of fine jewelry. Regionally, there were a lot of artists whose work really fit the show, and an immediate connection for me was the work of Babette Hirschberger, who's a painter turned ceramicist. She has the ability to create these very simple shapes and bend them slightly and add a little tab or a strange little handle, and suddenly the cup looks like it's going to walk off the table. Her attention to her clay bodies and glazes creates these really delicious textures and vibrant colors, and I find them to be irresistible. Another fun body of work in the show that animates to life is Janelle Young's Soft Rock series. Janelle is an accomplished photographer, but took this sort of tangent into fibers. The soft, colorful wool perfectly hugs onto its respective rock and makes us consider these very common stones as individuals worthy of investigation. I believe the spectrum of craft to fine art to design to architecture is really fluid. I wanted to include artists who dance on those lines. Kira Connolly is a ceramicist with a background in architecture and design who creates functional objects for the home that maintain, sorry, I'm pausing again because I don't want to get lost, that maintain a unique artistic voice and handcrafted production. Likewise, Kathleen and David Bly, who are the artists behind Jib Projects, also have a background in architecture and design, have a unique perspective, and create quirky yet elegant furniture and functional items from reclaimed wood, often from trees they source right here in Tampa. Cynthia Mason is another local artist with an architectural influence in her work, who typically exhibits in contemporary conceptual art galleries and less in craft spaces. A big reason I wanted to bring her in to shake things up. Her piece Soft Shelf 2025 has become a centerpiece of the exhibition. It's the piece that inspired the wacky paint colors because it was just calling for chartreuse. Taking something as rigid and defined as a grid and rendering it in soft, saggy fabric, for me, really speaks to the history of craft and its association with the feminine and the domestic, and how it's been historically discounted for that reason. You think of the modern art movement and how it was dominated by hard lines and hard materials and white box galleries and white men. Meanwhile, work in crafts media made by women, people of color, and people outside of the US and Western Europe was really diminished, which is a legacy that lives on today. The next two artists also cross over into the fine arts world of sculpture and painting, but with ceramic and collage. Rebecca Zweibel makes non-functional and, if you really want to, functional sculptures with unique organic forms and improvisational abstract mark making that converses so well with the other work in the exhibition. Mikhail encapsulates the intuitive, effortless approach to making that's central to the show. In his 2D and 3D work, there's an incredible level of detail and obsessive layering that pulls you in for further exploration. They nod to Cubism, Surrealism, and Dadaism, and reflect the way our memory fragments and reconstructs the past into new realities. I had so much fun putting this show together. It reminds us that craft doesn't have to be intricate to reflect skill, and art doesn't have to be dark and moody to be impactful. Thank you for being here, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. If you have a question or comment, you can use the raise hand function on Zoom, which is under reactions at the bottom of your screen, or you can enter a question in the chat and I can pull up some photos to discuss specific works. Thank you. If anyone has questions, go ahead and use the raise hand function, or I'll pull up the chat here and see. We wanted to leave a few minutes for questions. So. All right. I'm not seeing any questions, so we can.
Jessica, I have a question.
Yes.
Hi, it's Abby.
Hi, Abby.
I'm in Miami. Great to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you for this beautiful description of this wonderful show. I just wondered how the local audience has responded to the pieces and the work.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard great response. I think people feel like it's a really fun and beautiful show. There have been a lot of people who have been exposed to artists they hadn't seen before, whether locally or nationally, and that was really a big part of my goal. So I think the response has been largely really positive and excited about the show. So.
Great. One other question is about the soft sculpture. You know that I had loved that work before.
Yes.
Are you able to show us additional pieces of that work or go back to it? Because I see Aurora on the screen, and I know that the fiber connected to the grid was fascinating to me.
Yeah, let me pull up my shared screen again. And all right. So this is kind of the ended up really being a centerpiece for the show. The Cynthia Mason's soft grid. And it's a canvas material. That's another one of her pieces there. That smaller piece that you saw. It's a kind of a stiff canvas material that she stuffs with all kinds of different things to kind of give it form, but it really has that that kind of sagginess to it, where it wants to slump a little bit, and I think that's what makes it so appealing. But you can tell when she constructed it that it's a very exact grid, but just the nature of the material makes it kind of fall. Let me pull up the other grid pieces here. Does anybody else have any questions? Let's see.
Yeah, there's one in the chat asking about how often you rotate the exhibits. I don't know if you want to talk about the process, the downtime installation process for that.
Yeah, we typically our exhibitions are around 5 to 6 weeks. We usually have 1 week exhibition, sometimes two. So we have about 8 to 10 exhibitions per year, depending. Some shorter ones, some longer ones. All right. All right. Well, I don't want to delay our next presenter, so I'm going to move forward. And if anybody has any additional questions, always happy to talk. Our email address is gallery@floridacraftart.org. I'll put it in the chat. So I will pass it on to the next presenter.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica, so much. Yeah, just to reiterate, well, at the end of this, hopefully, if we have time, we'll go over all the sort of general questions in our discussion group. I'm excited that questions are coming in. I perhaps was most anxious about that most of all. So our next guest, and Aurora, I invite you to turn on your camera. As I mentioned earlier, I had been traveling around the state, visiting artists and other art organizations that are like ours, visiting universities, and having a lot of phone calls. Not one of these conversations sort of would come and go without someone saying, oh, you need to call this person. And if anything, the Zoom call is maybe trying to speed that up and learning more about who is out there in the world. In many of these conversations, this group called FAMA came up. FAMA stands for Fiber Artists Miami Association. So I did what I do, and I gave them a call and said, hey, would you have an hour to spare with me? And we did a Zoom call very similar to this one, where they shared what they were all about. I thought what they were doing was really, really great. And I wanted to hear more. So today I've invited Aurora Molina to come and tell us a little bit about FAMA. She was born in Havana, Cuba. She has her AA in visual arts from Miami-Dade College, her BFA in mixed media at Florida International University, and her master's in contemporary art from the Universidad Europea de Madrid. How'd I do, Aurora?
Great.
She is now a full-time artist based in Miami, Florida, and definitely one of the lead voices in what's happening with FAMA. So welcome, Aurora.
Thank you, George. Thank you for that call. And I'm sure, did Avi had anything to do with that connection? I don't remember.
No, I actually talked to Abby after I talked to you guys, and she was yet another one who said, oh, you have to call FAMA. And I very proudly said, oh, I already know them.
Yeah, she's one of those threads of connection that make our organization. So my name is
Absolutely. Thank you, Abby, for joining us today.
My name is Aurora. I'm at the studio, and where do I start? I'm gonna share the screen so I could navigate through the website, share, and yeah, can you see it from there? What did I do?
No, we can see it.
Can you see the website from there?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll have to make that.
I don't know if you can make it a little bigger, but we can definitely see it.
Because I'm not. Yeah, got it. I'm here. Okay, so FAMA started out of a conversation back in 2020, and I think it was after I collaborated with Alina, who's another co-founder, and Evelyn Pulitzer, 2 different conversations, and I said, wait, listen, we're gonna do a 3-way call right now. You're gonna meet each other and we're gonna shape these. It was right when the pandemic started, and I think that marks kind of the mission and vision of FAMA, which is to create community and to elevate craft, which I've been listening a lot. Jessica, you've mentioned it, and George too. We continue to have this conversation and to elevate craft into art when in fact everything it's one thing, right? And for artists, we do have to have that sense of craftsmanship behind the work. But we're here to make a statement and continue to create these communities and have these conversations. So let's just briefly touch on that. So with Alina and Evelyn, it was really the idea of creating and extending our need to create community. And I think what we said was, let's just try it out. Zoom was very popular at the time. And Alina had access through her job. So we had the opportunity to understand. She was the filter through how to use it. So we called a couple of friends, they spread the word, and our first Zoom was 40 people connected. And if you're from FAMA member, please wave so you could represent for the future FAMA members, because I'm sure we're recruiting some from St. Pete. So the idea was to just have a conversation and see where the need was. And of course, in the pandemic, we knew we wanted to emphasize education and create more opportunities for shows where fiber artists was spotlighted. So it was the 100-year anniversary of the women's right to vote. And I was doing a lot of research on that subject for a show I had at FIU. And I also had the opportunity to collaborate with the Camp Gallery. Melanie, the director, had given me the opportunity to put a fiber show. So I took advantage of that and I said, listen, if we are already in sync with this thought of creating banners, we discussed a little bit of that idea. And when we met on the Zoom, everyone had their own perspective on the subject and the historical context of the craft movement and whatnot. I approached Melanie and said, let's just put a show together. And we got 40 pieces. We installed the show. Everyone walked in with their mask on. We had to rotate schedule, and it was a hit. And from there on, we knew we were committed to all these artists that showed up. So that was cool. That was one of our first show. If you navigate through our website on past events, you're gonna find the first show, which was women pulling at the thread of social discourse. And you could just navigate and see. It was in a beautiful gallery setting. There were wall pieces, banners that were hanged, there were projections. Of course, our community of artists got very excited, and we got a lot of coverage on the newspapers, and we thought we had a good starting point. So from there on, I think we started to dedicate more time to give artists more spaces to get together. With the pandemic, we continued to meet online until we had the first opportunity to meet in person. And it was a workshop at Miami-Dade College. And there you could see the eagerness of many of these artists wanting to do more, wanting to learn more techniques. And then like things happen with FAMA, there's no agenda in the sense of like getting organized because we don't have funding. It's just the memberships. But we do have this vast network of artists that are working with craft media, textile fibers, different natural materials. And we have been partnering with different institutions that have, just like CraftArt, approach us and create these partnerships. So we were very lucky to, our first museum show as an organization was at the Four Arts in Palm Beach, and they had a wonderful budget. So we were able to organize didactic materials. We were able to hire some artists for videos and demonstrations. We had budget to ship the work in, and it was a wonderful turnaround. And from there on, we created something that was called Threading the City, which the idea was to, with this affiliation with different organizations, to create kind of like a thread around Miami with different institutions that had collaborated with us. And it rotated during a week with different events that open at each organization, the Mexican consulate, different organizations, the curator of the organization kind of like by submission selected the artists and curated the shows. And then each opening was happening at different days during the week. In that way, we rotated and created these sort of like fiber falls in the city, which was very interesting. We had shows like the American Denim, which was in collaboration with MIFA, which is another gallery studio organization here in Miami, where we, in the context of the history of denim, what it represented socially and historically, artists were invited to get these material and say something with it. And these shows are always surprising. Alina, Evelyn, and myself, we kind of like create the infrastructure in the sense of we put up the open call on the website, we reach out to artists, we send newsletter, and then we work with one curator that oversees what happens in the galleries and organizes and curates the show. So we found that equation, Jessica, I'm just letting you know in advance, keep an open eye. You have many talented artists to choose from. In that equation, there's no conflict of interests in the sense that the curator coming from the organization always have a vision and picks from the submissions, and it's always been a wonderful experience for the artist and FAMA in general to collaborate and extend our threads all around the state. I'm going to show you our membership page. This was our first in-person meeting, I think, after the pandemic. You could see the excitement. And it was during a show that Evelyn Pulitzer, the other co-founder, had at Miami-Dade College Kendall Gallery. Like you see, our year membership, it's only $35, and most time it goes for installation or very simple things. We're getting, thanks to Alina, who's the invisible person that does it all. We're getting some grants to be able to continue workshops and have more possibilities. Where are artists here? And you could see we even had Wendy Sheen as an invited artist. And as we were talking to George about what's very particular about FAMA and all the conversation we're having with having all the funding cut and the possibilities of doing a lot more things when you're funded. One of the things I think that makes FAMA special, it's that we've never relied on the funding once because we're not a run-through organization in the sense of, you know, what Alina, Evelyn, and I can do, that's what we'll do. It has a potential of growing, and we're not gonna cut us short. If there's that potential, we'll continue to do it. But I think most importantly, FAMA was born out of creating a community. And we want to be very faithful to continue to have that at the core of what we do. To continue to have workshops and to continue to create opportunity for artists and possibly connect them with galleries or museums that maybe, you know, it's harder to do, a lot harder to do if you're a single artist. I think this idea of the strength of the collective, it's at the core of FAMA. And when you become also kind of like, depending on who's funding, there are lots of bots that comes with it too, that you have to rely on. And thankfully, we have had people like CraftArt that approaches are open in the future to collaborate. We have an open call now for 2026 with the Hollywood Arts Center here in Florida. And a lot comes from that close network of either artists or ourselves and how to seek these opportunities. And if there's funding, great. If there's not, we leave it at the will of each artist to participate and seek an opportunity where, you know, it's a lot more into threading that community than having a physical space. So my studio becomes I always say that it's kind of like the pool that your aunt has, that it's maintained by the aunt. So my studio is always open for workshops. Is there any opportunity links in the community that we have created? We put it available for FAMA members. And that's how we're really functioning. So we always joke with Alina and Evelyn that we're creating these perception that we're this big of a thing. And it's great that people think that, but we're really not. So I think containing that, it's also one of the things that makes us very special. I think on my end, that's a little bit of the story, the plan for the future. I'm leaving it open, Jessica, where the gallery looks beautiful. That's it. Anything else? Any questions? Like I mentioned, I'm gonna show here. We always leave all the members, past, present, and always a couple of slots open for future members, because I think it serves as a directory or who it's active, who belong, and for curators or institution to come see that network that it's being created by the whole. We have in open call a couple of opportunities. We started last year to do these art ventures. So if one of our members has an exhibit or a workshop, we share and extend it to the community. And most recently, we got a group to sign up for an art venture and workshop at ICA Miami where the show of Olga Amaral, it's going to be up until September. So these opportunities to connect to other shows and continue to educate and elevate fiber arts, it's one of the new things that we're trying to get more organized and create a calendar and continue to have more workshops. That's going to be our focus going forward. And if we have institutions and galleries approaching us, we'll listen and consider it if it's a good opportunity to share with the rest and go from there. So like the good understaffed that we are, I'm gonna connect through my phone, and now I have to run to get my daughter from school. Is the other hat that I'm wearing. But thank you so much. I'll connect when I get in my card. If you have any questions, I'll be able to jump in from the phone. But Alina is here listening. She's also working full time. And I don't know if Evelyn got to connect, but we're sending lots of good energy for her to get better and back on track. And thank you for joining in, and how wonderful of continue to thread these web now to St. Pete. Thank you so much. And I'll be listening to the whole conversation because I'm sure there are lots of more interesting things coming up.
Fantastic, Aurora. Thank you so much. Alina has been very busy on, I think I just turned myself off, has been very busy on the chat answering some questions regarding FAMA. So we're covered there. And I do agree, they have a beautiful website. That leads us to the last part of our little meet and greet here. Does anyone, I know that there were some questions in the chat that I can go ahead and answer, but does anyone have anything pressing that comes to mind at this point? You can use your response button, or you can, I believe if you use your response button and put it in the chat, we can answer it. I see that we have one question. The very last question that we got was, what's the next exhibition? It is a wood show. We haven't had a woodworking show here at Florida CraftArt in quite a long time. It's called Against the Grain, and it's curated by Kurt Rushke, who is a very prominent member of the Woodworking Guild. I might not have that name exactly right, in Tampa, Florida. So we do have quite a few woodworkers here. And that was, of course, with me supposing that that question was for me and not for FAMA. I can't necessarily answer that question for FAMA. Another question was, do you have events for kids explaining the craft art? And we do. We have our youth arts program. And we also, I'm proud to say, last year we had 700 students from the Pinellas County schools who toured with us with a focus on the murals. A lofty question, which I won't even begin to answer, but maybe some of you might have some thoughts. How strong do you feel the art market is at present? I will answer you this, that this summer has been stronger than last summer for us, and I can't necessarily say why that is, but we're certainly happy to see some money coming in from that revenue stream, as it is one of the ways that we support the organization. Again, if you have any fresh questions that weren't in the chat, please let me know. Do you have a specific application period and process to be considered for future exhibitions? You can learn all about that on our website, our recently refreshed website, FloridaCraftArt.org. We do have a special section for opportunities for artists. I don't think that we have any of the 2026 shows posted quite yet. But we typically put up a year's worth of calls to artists on there, and we do our applications through Cafe. So it's a pretty easy situation in which to submit your work.
I want to add to that because you had mentioned about inviting exhibition proposals rather than like entering an open call. If you have an exhibition proposal, you can email Jorge or the gallery, which is I will put in the chat again, but Jorge@floridacraftart.org or gallery@floridacraftart.org.
And we only have a few minutes left, but not only do I want to thank Aurora and Jessica, and again, our staff who helped put this thing together. It seemed like a light lift at first, but we were sometimes only a little challenged on the technology side, but I'm glad everything went fairly smoothly. I see Donna Slosky has a question. I think Dan can unmute Donna. Yes, Donna.
Yeah. Hi, I'm a volunteer at Florida CraftArt. It's good to see everybody. I love Florida CraftArt, my home away from home. I'm a mosaic artist, by the way. So I wanted to ask a question about political art in our current climate, especially reading about how the governor is going to be removing street art from the streets of St. Pete. And I don't know if that includes the wall art, but I know that they want to paint over the Pride crosswalks for sure. So that probably is a topic of another call. But I just wanted to know if anyone had any ideas about that. This could go on for a while, so you don't have to do this now, but it's always primary in my mind. Like, do you think this is too controversial or what?
Does anyone, I have something to add, but does anyone else have something to say? Well, I will say that in our experience here at Florida CraftArt, we've had a few shows where some pieces came up that I wouldn't say gave us concern or pause, but we realized that they were political, and if you entered the gallery, you might have a different feeling about it. We made everyone comfortable coming, expressing what they felt about it. But so far, when we have been treading those waters, it has been very positive. I feel like in general, at least, and we are a little bit in a bubble because I think as creatives, we are a little bit more accepting of different views. It hasn't been an issue for us yet. And this goes even past to other organizations. I had an executive director in the past that was always very prepared when we showed something that could be considered controversial. And we'd have talking points ready and a statement to the press and an op-ed in the newspaper. And at least in St. Petersburg, I think that in general, despite the fact that our street murals are being painted over, like in the rest of Florida, I think that we are a pretty open-minded group. I just saw a question that says, can we do it monthly? Let's see. how often we can pull this off. I don't think that we can pull it off monthly, but let's perhaps try to make it quarterly. If you all are agree with the value in this, I'm delighted that that people enjoyed it that much that they would want to hear me anyway every month. That's about it for time. We are going to send out a email letter to all the participants, so keep an eye out for that. It will include FAMA's calendar of upcoming events, so you can learn a little bit more about from them. But please, when we email out to you, please respond with any kind of feedback, ideas for topics of conversation, ideas for organizations that we might want to spotlight. And like Jessica said, one of the really wonderful things about working for an organization our size, which is not, it's Goldilocks, it's not too big and not too little, we can pivot, and we're open to ideas for exhibitions. So if there's anyone out there, I'm looking at someone on the screen, Jody. Hello, Jody, who proposed an exhibition idea just yesterday, and we're working on that and seeing if that's a possibility. So thank you all for joining in. I can't tell you how excited and thankful I am. Let's see what we can do about making Florida a great place to make art. Thank you. Oh, I love applause. I love it. I love it. Thank you, you guys. All right. Bye.